President Carter's passing. Well, joining me now is Gina Abercrombie-Winstanley, an American diplomat who served as US Ambassador to Malta from 2012 to 2016 and also met the former president in Gaza whilst both were serving as election observers for the first general elections in the Palestinian territory. Ms. Winstanley, hello and welcome to the programme. Just first off, I just would like to get your reaction to this announcement on the Carter Center timeline on X, saying that in recognition of President Carter's long and distinguished service to the nation, Congress has extended the invitation of lying in state in the Rotunda in Washington, D.C. Is this normal protocol in the United States?
Well, it is an extraordinary honor. It is something that does not happen often by any means, just for those who really are at the top of American admiration for their service to the country. And of course, in former President Carter's position, former service to the world. He was an extraordinary humanitarian. And certainly, as time has extended from his presidency, we've all had the opportunity to benefit both internationally and domestically from his great work as a humanitarian. And so this seems like a really perfect way to further honor him. And I'm really glad to hear it.
So you met him in your days as a diplomat. Tell us about that.
Yes, well, I was a fairly young diplomat serving in the Gaza Strip, was my portfolio, the political affairs. I got there just after Yasser Arafat returned, and so was able to observe the preparations for elections. And because it was such a momentous occasion for Palestinians to have a voice in their future, to choose their leader in a democratic process, the entire world had its eye on Palestinians, both in the West Bank and the Gaza Strip. And the embassy asked me to set up election observers, to give U.S. diplomats an opportunity to do the job of observing the elections, to determine whether they were free and fair. And of course, this is something that the Carter Center specialized in, among other good works. President Carter himself led a delegation to the Gaza Strip, along with, there were other election observers from the European Union, of course, but the Carter Center specialized in this. And as we circumnavigated the Gaza Strip from Jabalia, from Netzarim down to Deir Bella, all these names that we have been hearing about for the last year plus, as they have undergone strikes from the Israeli government. These were places where polling booths were set up, where Palestinians were ready to take important steps toward peace. And the Carter team and the embassy team interacted. We compared notes, had the opportunity to engage with President Carter, what he was seeing, what the team was seeing, discussing the access to the ballots, what the lines, what the atmosphere was like. So it was an amazing day.
Ms. Winstanley, you are a woman of colour. And we have heard a lot about what Jimmy Carter did to contribute to fighting racism. He's from the South. We know the history, US history, when it comes to racism. He was also very outspoken when it comes to apartheid in South Africa. What did Jimmy Carter's contribution to fighting racism mean to African Americans?
Well, he was seen as a invaluable partner. His voice, particularly with regard to South Africa, and even some of his more quiet efforts within the United States. As a man of the South, he certainly was intimately acquainted with the overt racism that African Americans often dealt with in the South, but also more covert racism throughout the rest of the country. There are memos that are coming to light now from his time of leading the White House with his insistence that there be an inclusive hiring processes with regard to the White House, to the National Security Council, where I had the privilege of working for former President Clinton, where President Carter said there will be minority hiring for the White House, for the National Security Council, even as the usual hiring process that did not include a vision of inclusion from the State Department, from other government agencies. He pushed back hard on this, and this information certainly has come out over the years, and he has the deepest and broadest respect from African Americans because he didn't have to take those views. It was easier to go along, and he stood up and he spoke out. So absolutely. And of course, I also had the privilege of being the first diversity and inclusion officer for the Department of State. And so the efforts that he made are those that were continued and championed by many after he passed on from government service.
He walked the talk, didn't he? Gina
Indeed.
Abercrombie-Winstanley, thank you very much for that. Thank you.
My privilege. Thank you.